All my bourbon friends have checked this out, so we're going to see what an Irish whiskey drinker thinks of Traveler blended whiskey. Welcome to Four Leaf Whiskey. So my husband is a Chris Stapleton fan. I like some of his songs, so I picked up Traveler blended American whiskey. Now I kind of questioned myself how much Chris Stapleton actually did have involvement with picking this blend. He did come out in a magazine article a few years ago about how he had been sober for several years. But he's kind of walked that statement back recently. Now, I don't know if that means he really wasn't sober as much as sober-ish and just kind of really scaled back his drinking, or if he walked that statement back knowing that he had this collaboration and launch of this whiskey line. Regardless, we're going to get into this and see how this is. Now, the first thing that kind of struck me about this, even though it's coming from Buffalo Trace, is that this is a blend, not a bourbon. From what I could gather looking up online, it seems like this is a mix of some Barton 1792 and quite a good amount of Canadian whiskey. On the nose, it is very, very sweet. It smells like sugared frosting. Like it's almost like that metallic-y sugar note. I do sometimes get that note on Jameson a little bit as well. Get that note on Proper 12 also. So I'm not getting a whole lot here. I am getting some orchard fruit, some apple, but the sugar is the dominant note here. Like I said, it's almost like a confectioner sugar or like a sugar frosting. This is a lower ABV. This one is 45% ABV. So if I had to guess something in this blend, first thing I would have gone with was light whiskey. This does come off, it's kind of blatantly obvious there's Canadian whiskey in here. It's very, very sweet. It is rock candy, sugar sweet. The first note I'm getting reminds me of making rock candy at Christmas time with my family. There's some vanilla, there's just a little bit of apple. It's kind of got a weird alcohol note going at the end. It's just a little bit of a bitterness. I don't know if it's youth. I'm not sure of the age of this. I'm curious as to how much Canadian whiskey is in this blend. So we're going to try something. All right. So this time last year, I had a business trip to Canada. And on my way back in Ontario, I picked up a little bottle of this 40 Creek Canadian whiskey to try because I didn't have a whole lot of real Canadian whiskey. So this is a 40% ABV Canadian whiskey. This is from Ontario, Canada. It says Niagara whiskey, so I'm assuming it's from the Niagara region. So let's see how close these compare. I'm actually getting a lot more caramel in the Canadian whiskey and a lot more just of that metallic sugar note in the Traveler. So the Canadian whiskey is like that top sugar of a creme brulee. It tastes like that burnt crust of a creme brulee. Going back to the Traveler, I am starting to pick up a little more of those bourbon notes. I'm starting to get that brown sugar. I'm starting to get a little bit of that virgin oak. But there is definitely quite a bit of Canadian whiskey in this. The thing that does stand out to me about this Traveler is that this is 40%, this is 45%, this is drinking below its proof. It's actually drinking just like an 80 proof whiskey. So, what does an Irish whiskey drinker think of Traveler blended whiskey? It's a no for me, dog. This one's okay. It's very, very sweet, but even past the really sweet notes, even past the 45% ABV that drinks like it's 40% ABV, it's just really one-dimensional. Not a lot going on here. I actually had to go to a Canadian whiskey and back to even pick up the bourbon in this. I think it's got a lot of Canadian whiskey in this blend. And it's too much. There's just not enough going on. There's not enough complexity in this at all. If you're actually looking for a whiskey to enjoy, I would gravitate more towards, an Obtainium light whiskey, a Penelope light whiskey. I think both of those are far better buys than Traveler. No offense, Buffalo Trace. Please like and subscribe, comment below. Let me know if you have tried Traveler blended whiskey. Sláinte.